The group converged later that evening at the tavern where Penny had worked herself ragged. The mood inside was high, voices loud, but everyone except Penny looked miserable. She wondered why they looked so dejected. The other two wondered why the entire tavern seemed to know who she was and wanted to talk to her. No one gave satisfactory answers to anything. They ate dinner, Roland's treat. Shepherd's pie, though it tasted more like goat than lamb. Surprisingly good, anyway, like it always is when you're hungry enough to stop being critical. When the meal sat like a lump in their stomachs, the young men discovered that the only person in the group who'd actually gathered useful information was Penny. She'd learned quite a bit, actually. Dangers in the wilderness and similar things. It improved both Roland's and Lymphocytus's mood considerably, and they decided to see if they could hear more rumors before finding lodging for the night. They'd all been so occupied with their errands that they'd completely forgotten about accommodation. The evening continued in the tavern's heavy warmth. More food arrived, finger foods this time, pork rinds, and beer. Penny's voice had softened the room's atmosphere in a way that made people talk more freely around their table than around others. Someone recognized her from earlier. Someone else bought another round to keep sitting nearby. The group listened more than they spoke, and what they picked up was that people actually had plenty to say. An older man at a side table mentioned that different groups of creatures kept to different areas, said it like it was obvious. Everyone knows that. From a table further in came a low warning from a very drunk woman. If you get lost out there in the wilderness, something finds you before you find your way back. So it's best to stay inside the walls. Wait, people disappear in the wilderness? Lymphocytus asked, upset. Don't they in all wildernesses? I thought that was the whole point. But what does the bailiff do about it? Penny asked, concerned. The bailiff? He doesn't give a damn, unless someone with a lot of money disappears, because then it looks bad in the tax coffers, you see. I've seen it with my own eyes, Penny. The man is a certified bumhole, Roland agreed. A traveling merchant that Lymphocytus bought exotic giggleweed from swore on everything holy that something large and dog-like kept to the high mountains, far from the lower paths. If we hadn't had fast horses, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. And that would have been sad, wouldn't it? As evening thinned, and the only light in the place came from candle stubs shoved into bottles, singing their last verse, and the glow in the open fireplace faded, it became easy to get philosophical, especially if you'd been drinking beer that tasted like dishwater and wine that tasted like vinegar. Saying this is good is one of the bigger lies I've told today, Roland slurred. Spirits are supposed to taste disgusting. That's why you get drunk, Penny giggled, trying to hit the mouth of a patron who'd passed out leaning back in his chair a few tables away with a pork rind. Yeah, you're probably used to finer things where you come from. Apple wine and elderflower mead and all that, Lymphocytus teased. Ha! Roland burst out. You should only know. Beer maids, beautiful as forest nymphs, just hung like clusters around my neck and begged me to pour drinks straight down their throats. No, mine, I mean. Just then, the patron who'd nearly tipped over coughed into a violent attack, and the pork rind flew straight up to the ceiling, lost its stickiness quickly, and landed on his forehead with a disgusting sound. Score! Penny cheered. Don't kill the guests, the large red-faced barkeep muttered from behind the bar. Aye, aye, Captain, Penny said, making an uncoordinated salute. The man just sighed. But actually, it wasn't like that. Roland picked up the thread again. What wasn't? Lymphocytus asked, mostly occupied with what had just happened. Well, my family. We're not that rich. Or, yes, richer than those in the slums, of course. But there are large farmers who have more money than my father. And he doesn't have influence either. There was actually talk of putting my little sister Abel, she's called, That's a boy's name, Penny pointed out. Oh, right, damn, it's my brother. Abigail, she's called for God's sake. Yes, she was going to be put in a convent because father couldn't afford more weddings. But she solved it herself. She left one day and poof, she was just gone. She just disappeared? Lymphocytus asked, slightly distracted, staring into his mug with his pinky finger, catching some foam and blowing it away. Yes, poof, gone. And mother was never the same again. One of those, what are they called? Hysterical, catatonic, neurotic, melancholic, depressive, paranoid, anxious, PTSD, psychotic, bipolar, dissociative, schizophrenic, hyperthyroid, endometriosis, neurasthenic. Lymphocytus rattled off like an encyclopedia. No, hikikomori, one of those recluses who doesn't leave their chamber. Family gatherings became rather sparse, if you know what I mean. I'm never getting married, Penny interjected, staring into the last light. That's just what you say now. Soon you'll be sitting there with a bunch of kids in your lap pulling your hair. That's how it goes for all women, Roland said importantly. Yeah, but I'm not like all other women, she replied. I'm shorter than most, almost pocket-sized, she giggled. Not like everyone else. You're not a pocket girl, you're a pick-me girl, Lymphocytus teased. Then the flame guttered without emphasis, and a thin line of smoke rose toward the ceiling. Well now, time to go to bed, the red barkeep said. If you're lucky, the innkeeper's still awake. Otherwise, I've got a shed you can sleep in. They stumbled out into the courtyard's cool air, which hit like a slap after the tavern's warmth. Penny felt her head spin slightly, or maybe that was just the vinegar wine catching up with her. Roland walked with exaggerated care, the kind of careful that only drunk people think looks sober. Shed, he said, and snorted after a moment, like the word needed processing first. We came all this way to sleep in a pig shed. Could be worse, Penny offered, though she wasn't sure how exactly. Could be outside the walls, with the things that eat people. That woman was drunk, Lymphocytus said, squinting at the dark buildings around them. People exaggerate when they're drunk. You're drunk, Roland pointed out. Exactly, so I know what I'm talking about. The logic seemed sound enough that no one argued. They moved through the courtyard in what they hoped was the direction of the inn, though the keep's layout had become significantly less clear with alcohol. Everything looked the same in the dark. Grey stone, wooden doors, no helpful signs. This one, Roland said confidently, approaching a building that looked exactly like all the others. He knocked, loudly. Nothing happened for a long moment. Then the door opened to reveal a man in a nightshirt, holding a candle, looking absolutely furious. What? Inn? Roland tried. Does this look like a fucking inn? The man's voice was low and dangerous. This is my house. Get away from my door before I call the guards. The door slammed. They stood there in silence. Well, Penny said, that wasn't it. Obviously, Lymphocytus muttered. They tried another building. This time, a woman answered, equally angry, and before Roland could even speak, she'd pointed wordlessly toward the other side of the courtyard and shut the door in their faces. She was helpful at least, Penny said. She called us drunken idiots, Lymphocytus corrected. She pointed though, Roland said, shrugging his shoulders in a defensive manner. They followed the direction she'd indicated and eventually found a larger building that did, in fact, look more inn-like than the others. Roland knocked, then knocked again, then pounded on the door with what he probably thought was reasonable force. Window shutters slammed open somewhere high above, and someone screamed out to shut the hell up. Sorry, Penny called up, genuinely apologetic. "We'll be quiet now." "The hell we will," Roland countered, and kicked at the door a few times with his leather boot. No answer came from inside. "Maybe they're asleep," Lymphocytus suggested. "It's an inn," Roland said. "They can't just close." "They can if it's late enough," Penny confirmed. Roland kept knocking anyway, with a refusal to accept defeat that the alcohol made worse. Penny walked around the side of the building, studying it. There was a window on the second floor, slightly open. Not wide, but open. "There," she said, pointing. They all looked up at it. "We could climb," Roland said, as if this was obviously a good idea. "Could we really, in your state?" Penny asked, genuinely uncertain. "I'm not climbing," Lymphocytus said. Then, after a pause, "You two go first." Roland approached the wall with determination that would have been more impressive if he hadn't immediately struggled to find handholds. The stone was smooth, worn by weather, offering nothing obvious to grip. He managed to get perhaps 3 feet up before his boot slipped and he dropped back down, stumbling backward into Lymphocytus. "Careful," Lymphocytus said, steadying him. "I almost had it." "You were nowhere near it." Penny giggled and pointed out another route. I know. You have to try your own way first before doing the most obvious thing," Roland said, probably trying to convince himself more than anyone else. Roland tried again. This time he made it slightly higher before his fingers lost their grip and he slid down the wall, scraping his knuckles on the stone. He swore, examining his hands in the dim light. "My turn," Penny said, stepping forward with the careful deliberation of someone who actually knew what she was doing. She'd watched Roland's mistakes. She wouldn't repeat them. She found what seemed like better handholds, tested her weight, started climbing. She made it perhaps 5 feet before her foot slipped on stone that turned out to be loose. She dropped, landed badly, and rolled onto her side with a pained sound. "You all right?" Roland asked, crouching beside her. "Fine," she wheezed, though she clearly wasn't. "Just winded." They sat there in the dirt beside the inn, all 3 of them, breathing hard and covered in scrapes. The window above remained open and unreachable, mocking them. "The shed," Penny said finally. "The shed," Roland agreed. "The shed," Lymphocytus sighed, defeated. They found it behind the tavern, exactly where the barkeep had implied it would be. It wasn't locked, not valuable enough to protect apparently. Inside smelled of pig, which made sense once their eyes adjusted and they saw the pen taking up most of the space. 3 pigs were there, huddled together in the corner, stirring slightly at the intrusion but not bothering to investigate. Fresh straw had been laid down recently, probably more for the pigs than any hypothetical human guests. Roland collapsed into the clean straw without ceremony. Lymphocytus lowered himself more carefully, not to get any dirtier than he already was. Penny stood in the doorway a moment longer, looking back at the keep's dark buildings, wondering what exactly they'd accomplished today beyond confirming they were all equally useless. Well, she wasn't that useless when she thought about it. Then she too stepped inside and found a spot in the straw, keeping some distance from the pigs who seemed unimpressed by their new roommates. "This is awful," Lymphocytus said quietly. "Could be worse," Penny replied, though she was running out of ways that was actually true. "How?" She thought about it. "Could be raining." As if the universe had been waiting for permission, they heard the first drops start to fall outside. Light at first, then heavier. "Fuck," Roland said from somewhere in the darkness. But the shed's roof held, mostly. Water dripped through in a few places, but not enough to matter. They shifted positions to avoid the worst of it, found relatively dry spots, and lay there, listening to the rain drum against wood and thatch. One of the pigs grunted softly, a sound that was almost companionable in the darkness. Sleep came eventually, because exhaustion and alcohol made consciousness optional. Penny's last thought before drifting off was that tomorrow they'd need to actually accomplish something, because this, waking up in a pig shed after failing to climb into an inn, was not a story she wanted to tell her kids, that she'd never want to have anyway. But tomorrow was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, they had straw and a roof and each other. It would have to be enough.